Okay, so this is just to show a slightly alternative method for doing the question. And that is basically that a phenomenon occurs that if a parabola is standing upright and passes along an inverted parabola, a parabola sitting upside down, sort of, or upside an inverted parabola, the shape that it creates in plan would basically be a hyperbola, right? So what we could do is, if we identify V1 and V2, we could make this shape here like our cooling tower shape. So an alternative way to solve the question, and that's just what I'm going to do, and I have these marks here from the previous one just to prove that that's what it is we could have marked out V1 and V2 now. However, we weren't given this width in the question. So we would have still have had to use part 4 in order to figure out this width. But once we did, we could technically have marked V1 and V2 and then went about doing our curve the typical way. So what I'll do is I'm going to make a rectangle out of this, and we're going to look at how we could have done that. Okay. However, this is relatively small, and because we have to use this anyway for this method, there's no way of using this alternative method for solving this. It's unlikely, but it is an acceptable solution. And in one of the questions from a previous year, so I think it was 2012, basically this question here, it may have been easier to use to solve this part here, but I suppose it's just personal preference. So because this is a random distance, we need to split this into 5. Now again, this causes problems because it's so small. It causes particular problems to me because I have such a small set, or such a thick marker, such a small level of space. So this here was split into 4, so we'll split it into 4 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll join this back here, and we'll use sliding set squares. So bring back all my various points. So I suppose the big advantage to this method is that if you went in on the day of the exam and you forgot about how to do this method, but you'd remember how to do your hyperboloid revolution, and you got a shape like this, you'd probably be able to work it out. So again, we'll just continue. We'll mark these points here. I don't typically remember which one would go to V1 and V2, but I do know that if I join these ones to V2 and these ones here to V1, they wouldn't cross, so it must be the other way. So I'll just draw them in a light green. Now again, my marker thickness has already caused me problems, because you can see that gap is slightly different, and it's just a little bit harder to draw an exact, accurate point on it. But what you can see there is basically I have a point here, I have a point here, and I have a point here. And if I was to sketch that curve in, it would line up with the points that I already found by using the mirror method. Okay, so it's just an alternative way of which you could use it, your method for your hyperboloid of revolution, and then you could obviously do it on the other side as well. Again, if you went in on the day and you forgot, it might be handy to do it that way.